Hey, everybody. Welcome into the New England Ski Journal Basecamp Podcast. I'm Mike Spiecian with my co-host,
Chip Cook.
Chip Cook, the infamous Chip Cook.
The man chasing the smile.
He hopped into the spot that David Yass used to be at. David, are you still there?
Yeah, I still work here. I mean, come on, let's not.
I mean,
you still need a producer, don't you?
Yep. You do the magic, David. Can't get rid of you.
I feel bad. The seat's still warm, David. Sorry.
You might have had to raise the seat a little bit, Chip.
I
No
did.
offense.
I did. No, I am definitely vertically challenged.
Yeah. David, you are still as handsome as always. Thanks for all you do.
As long as you're behind the camera, you can tell people you're as handsome as you want. That's my key.
Well, folks, summer is completely upon us now. You can tell because the surf disappeared. It became flat, right, Chip?
Yep, it is. We've got a Lake Atlantic, as I like to call it.
Yeah, that's it. But it's gotten hot. It's, you got to find things to do in the summer now.
And, today's show, this is a fun one. It kind of has escaped my mind for a little bit. We're going to go up to Lake Placid. I mean, it's been a while for me. I don't know when the last time you were up there, but I kind of forgot. It's a cool little destination.
Well, yeah, because we're in New England, we think of maybe a Stowe, which is a quaint little village, or North Conway, which with the mecca of outlets. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you, Lake Placid is still real. My God, they had 2 Olympics.
No, and everyone thinks. I always say I think 1980 is what everyone associates Lake Placid with. But I'm the first one to tell you I got tunnel vision, and you brought this up, and I'm really excited. In kind of poking around, I forgot how I'm a rugby guy. The Can-Am rugby tournaments.
There you go.
It's and more importantly, it's still a hub for Olympic development.
You know what? We were just in Utah 2 weeks ago, and that was, the Olympic Training Center is right in Park City. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? They're doing the same thing over at Lake Placid.
And you can participate in it. The bobsled, it runs winter and summer.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
That's something, I know you're like me. Speed is fun. There's a lot to do up there in the culture, the food, and
it's not a mountain coaster, huh?
There is one up there.
Yeah, but is the bobsled like a mountain coaster?
No. We're going to talk about this in the show, but it's an actual sled, been outfitted with some wheels. I'm in.
Well, we're going to Lake Placid. I'm gonna. You're 10 years younger than me, so I'm not sure you'll remember. But do you remember the Miracle on Ice?
I do. All too well. I remember exactly where I was sitting.
Where were you?
I was in a living room getting ready to play street hockey, a sport I am horrible at. I am not a hockey guy. I am a ski guy through and through, but I was going to walk out. It happened. Didn't pay much attention to it until many years later. That movie kind of came out, unfortunately. For me, though, let's talk about some of the athletes that were there that year skiing.
Oh, my goodness. Wasn't there a set of brothers? Forget their names.
Yeah, they might have been, here from a country that wasn't quite well known from skiing. And
when an iconic brand of skis was still built in this country at Vashon Island.
The complex,
Vashon Island, K2. The
Mayer brothers. There was controversy. I think Klammer was out that year or didn't make the team, or there was quite a bit going on, and I think that gets a little overshadowed, by and I'm not going to take anything away from USA Hockey. That was phenomenal.
You've got 10 seconds. The countdown going on.
Here we go, folks.
Up to Schultz. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
And that, folks, is why we have a producer. Good job, David.
Thank you. I'll listen to that all day long.
Yeah, how can you not? I mean, the crowd roaring. I was actually on a bus with a group going up to Mount Tremblant when that was going on. We had it on the radio. You should, you're going up through Montreal and the bus is shaking.
It's and that kind of captures it. And we're going to touch a little bit on that, but it's the Olympics. And it is a special time. I've been fortunate to go to a couple. It's whether it was hockey, skiing, figure skating. Lake Placid is one of those Olympic venues that really had a village. I knew several people that were there filming during the whole Olympic scene, and one thing they kept talking about years after is that it was a village. Like, athletes were shoulder to shoulder, the camaraderie, and from what I understand, that still kind of lives on in that town.
Well, the other thing I want the listener to see, I grew up on that side of Lake Champlain, quite a ways away in Western New York, but we talk about the White Mountains, which are incredible. I mean, Mount Washington, incredible. But they have such a huge national presence in the Adirondacks. It's an incredible mountain range. Mount Marcy is incredible. It's going to be fun to just see what's going on over there.
No, and I mean, they have an Ironman up there.
They sure do.
When I think of Ironman, I'm California, Hawaii, Lake Placid Ironman. It's a venue for any type of athlete. And I was watching a movie last night, and it dawned on me. I was watching The Last of the Mohicans. You cannot. Classic. There's so many movies that film that, and you're right. We get so close to the White Mountains, and they are beautiful by their own right, but we forget. And it's hop in the car, one more tank of gas, let's go.
Well, the funny part is anybody that skis Sugarbush goes up top and looks across at Whiteface. That's Lake Placid. I mean, you can almost touch it. Saratoga Springs isn't that far from us. Lake George isn't that far from us. And Lake Placid is closer than you think. Spend a night in Burlington, enjoy Burlington, hop on the ferry, go across.
So many different ways to do it. And it's I'm kind of excited. I'm really excited for this show. This should be an eye-opener for me, and it might be helping me plan my next trip. Well,
our guest today, Tait Wardlaw, just took over as Director of Communications and Marketing for the Olympic Regional Development Authority. Tait's background, along with his brother Ted, I've known these guys for an awful long time. They grew up in Taos, New Mexico. Okay. Yeah, that little ski area in Taos, that, the real deal there. But Tait just took over as the VP of Sales and Marketing and Communications for the Olympic Authority. He has lived in this area. He knows the lakes of New Hampshire because his mom's over here. He was product director for Dynastar at one point. He worked for Rossignol. He was director of Chugach Mountain Guides at one point. This guy has it all. Huge background, understands our community, the skiing community, and it's going to be fun talking to Tait.
No, and I know they have their hands full with what they're working on up there at Lake Placid. They're really focused on the NCAA's had championships up there, really not putting it back on the map, but bringing it back to its glory and just providing a training ground. And I can't stress that enough. These athletes go year round, and Lake Placid has the tools for even our local athletes to try and get to that next level, to achieve and be safe.
You know what I feel what's going to happen right now? All I can think is Alicia Keys' Empire State of Mind, and David's going to put it on.
It's something like that.
Yeah, I mean, here he goes.
The wheels were already turning.
You know what? That's why we have a producer. This is going to be a fun episode. We're going to have a little Empire State of Mind, and here comes Alicia Keys.
You asked me to jump, and I say, how high?
You got to love it, folks.
Yeah, I'm out at Brooklyn. Now I'm down in Tribeca, right next to De Niro. But I'll be hood forever. I'm the new Sinatra. And since I made it here, I can make it anywhere. Yeah, they love me everywhere. I used to cop in Harlem. All of my Dominicanos right there up on Broadway.
And there we go, folks. Next up is Tait Wardlaw, coming from Lake Placid and the great state of New York.
From Texas, me, I'm out that Bed-Stuy, home of that boy Biggie. Now I live on Billboard.
If you want to be inspired and informed on everything about the New England ski and outdoor scene, then you need to check out skijournal.com. Skijournal.com delivers daily content on breaking industry news, tips, gear, dining, travel, entertainment, as well as all archived episodes of the Emmy-nominated New England Ski Journal TV show and the Basecamp Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to New England Ski Journal, the longest-running regional ski magazine in the country. New England Ski Journal's award-winning writers and photographers bring all 4 seasons to your door with best-in-class coverage on skiing and the outdoors. Log on to skijournal.com and click on the subscribe button to get New England Ski Journal mailed to you today. New England Ski Journal is a Seamans Media publication. Seamans Media. Inspiring, informative, insightful.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Basecamp Podcast. Now joining us from Lake Placid, New York, Tait Wardlaw, VP of Sales, Marketing, and Communications for the Olympic Regional Development Authority. How you doing, Tait?
Hey, Tait.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're happy to have you on board. Chip and I were talking before our conversation here about Lake Placid and what it means to both of us. So
it's a pretty special place that you have up there. But to start right out, can you kind of describe the Olympic Regional Development Authority, your role, its mission? You know, what are you guys into?
Yes, I can. So the Olympic Regional Development Authority was founded immediately after the 1980 Olympics, ultimately to preserve the efficacy and the impact that the Olympic venues and high-level sport can have on the region. It evolved into a significant full-time business with the ownership and oversight of 3 separate ski areas in the state and a number of different Olympic venues in and around Lake Placid. But most importantly, the mission today is really to provide recreational and athletic sport activity. So think alpine skiing, Nordic skiing, ski jumping, bobsled, etc., to the local and regional communities, but also to the national higher level sport communities, and ultimately to the most elite facets of competition within those sports anywhere in the world. So our mandate is both to help the local and regional communities, but also to facilitate the highest level of sport for the betterment of everybody, including the region.
That's outstanding. I mean, we just had Ski Utah on our previous episode, and of course the Olympic Training Center's out there also. And we're excited because this is a continuation of taking sports to the next level.
And I find it really exciting. I know this winter, didn't you host some of the NCAA competitions in that area?
So yes, actually in winter 2023, we held what are called the FISHU Games, or in our American English jargon, the World University Games. And that included teams from 50 countries around the world, and included the highest level of sport in ski racing and bobsled, and obviously a multitude of other winter sports.
That's amazing. You and I have known each other for an awful long time. Why don't you give us a little bit about your background, your connection to the ski industry?
I'm very blessed in that I grew up in Taos, New Mexico, and as a really small skier in Taos Ski Valley, which really formed my passion and love for the sport. As I grew up as a ski racer competing on a national level, I found myself in ski areas and ski racing programs across the country. And while I did everything I could to continue to pursue my passion, eventually a job called, and I became a journalist after college. And as I set out to become a business journalist, I continued to get pulled by the stories and the passion and the adventure associated with all things outdoors, and especially ski. And as my journalism career continued to grow, eventually a couple of different ski companies offered me a role as a product tester, and then a product management and development guy, a marketing guy at Dynastar, Lang, and Look, ultimately as the head of marketing for the Rossignol brand and the Rossignol group. And then as I became a parent of 3 young kids, and it became important to move back to Lake Placid, I continued to work on marketing and brand development for various companies that are out there, some in the travel and tourism business, some in ski, and some in completely different spaces. Ultimately, I worked for a global development and sustainability firm for the last 5 years, which was a real honor to be able to help drive what we would call positive social and environmental impact around the world. And just recently, over the last 6 months, I've found the opportunity to marry my passion and my history in ski with my formal training in go-to-market, brand management, development, and my newfound passion, which is bringing sustainability and positive impact to communities, all under one roof here at Orta as the VP of Sales and Marketing and Communication. And my responsibility here is really to help drive awareness and positive business model, while also driving positive impact for local, regional, and global communities.
That's absolutely awesome. Like, we had Protect Our Winters on this past winter. It is being sustainable is so crucial right now, in the ski industry, but in the world. I mean, I applaud you for the direction you took. Lake Placid has held 2 of the 4 Winter Olympics here in this country. Just amazing. What makes Lake Placid so unique to have that honor?
Well, that's a great question. I can't speak to what the IOC was thinking back in 1924 when they first awarded the first Olympics. But I can tell you, good and bad, that probably not much has changed. So what allows our region to be a great host for large-scale sports events these days are a combination of culture, location, environment, and regional passion. And what I mean by that is that located on the north slope of the Adirondacks, we have incredibly reliable winter conditions, right? So we don't ever really suffer from long thaws or anything like that might challenge things like speed skating outside or the snowpack on our ski areas or things of that nature. It's fairly reliable and consistent relative to most ski areas in the Northeast. Because of our location relative to Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, Boston, New York, and other cities, we're not that far from those places for access to our sports and our events from a number of highly populated areas. And because of our commitment to outdoor living, adventure, and sport, let alone hosting some of these large-scale events, we have a population of folks that is super passionate about not just skiing and skating, Nordic skiing, hockey, things of that nature, sliding sports, but also of hosting the world and putting on what our region believes to be as good an event as anyone can put on anywhere in the world. So our bobsled track, for example, has just been rebuilt and is state of the art. And our regional workers and stakeholders love nothing more than to host the world. So all of those things combined make for a great platform for holding Olympics and future large-scale events. And there certainly are many on the docket. So that's really, I guess, what I would call the background to why we are a good choice for these events.
Now, Tait, I know Mike's been there. I've been up there. We know why anyone would want to kind of call that home. But How does it change a little bit in the summer? I love that you talked about bobsled because we were talking about that earlier. I know I could probably get on one this week if I wanted to, but what's the vibe that kind of comes out of Lake Placid as the snow melts and everything gets a little greener for us?
That's a great question. As with many ski areas, ski destinations, resort towns, winter resort towns, the not well kept secret is that summer's even better, and we've known this, and we have returning guests that come here every summer that have known it for decades. With the decentralization of COVID 4 years ago, there were a whole number of new folks that came to the region for the first time and discovered the summer adventure and how spectacular it is. What's unusual about our summer vibe is that it does include sort of the ability to, go fishing, get lost, go hiking in any of the 46ers that surround our region. But we also have state-of-the-art summer athletic and sport experiences that we haven't had in the past, right? Our mountain biking continues to grow and expand. Our on-water sports continue to grow and expand. And as you both know, our summer jumping, bobsled riding, whether it is on a professional level or just a recreational level, is open to the public. We have a number of amazing additional experiences, such as zip line experiences and things of that nature around the region. And then, the other thing that's really magical about this area is that we have, with Lake Placid and Saranac Lake, we have these wonderful communities that sit on the shores of these idyllic little lakes, so that in addition to getting lost in the mountains or having a high performance sports experience, you can also sit lakeside on a number of restaurant decks or coffee shop decks and just relax. And so it's a combination of, sort of mountain relaxation, but with the added opportunity to compete or push yourself at a high level.
It's in one of the things, I was fortunate, I was a rugger from Colorado, and I know you've got the Can-Am Rugby Fest coming up, and you nailed it. This is just one of many events you have going on throughout the summer. It's not just, although music and different things are important, but the ability to see athletes at the top of their level, no matter what the level is, competing and having fun, which seems to be kind of an underwritten theme with Lake Placid.
Yeah, that's really true. There are a number of large scale events that come here every summer. And you mentioned one with the rugby tournament. We have a lacrosse tournament. This is the home to, now in its 25th year, I think it's the second Ironman event in the country is still here in Lake Placid. And every other year, that's a Ironman Nationals event. So that's a big deal. This year in 2024, we're hosting the UCI World Cup mountain bike event on September 27th, 28th, and 29th at Mount Van Hovenberg at one of the Orta facilities, the Nordic facility, Nordic skiing facility. And so what that means is that we will have almost 200 of the world's best men and women cross country and XO, which is sort of mini cross country mountain bike races held in the world. And that promises to be just a spectacular event. Think of it as it's almost stock car racing on a bike, especially the XO or short track event, which allows for a cross country experience, but through a stadium where, the best and fastest riders are literally rubbing elbow to elbow. And while it's cross country riding, there are a lot of features in today's mountain biking that the three of us would probably do well to avoid.
Yes. We've went full circle talking about mountain biking with both Killington and the Highlands over here in New Hampshire, and how it's changed. I like gravel riding these days for a reason.
I like e-bikes.
E-bikes, there you go. Hey, so I live in New Hampshire, as you well know, Tait, and we have the White Mountains. You have a special connection to New Hampshire as well as I know. And how would you describe the Adirondacks in comparison to the Whites?
That's a great question. The Whites, and to an extent the Greens of Vermont as well. The Whites span such a large sort of longitudinal oriented chunk of New Hampshire, and it's interesting in that it's I would say omnipresent in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
New York is, as we know, it's sort of an odd shaped state with a lot of different communities, right? And a great deal of different definitions for what New York is, right? To some, New York is New York City, fair enough, or Long Island. To others, it's Western New York, right? And Niagara Falls and Buffalo and things of that nature. To others, it's Syracuse University and Central New York. And then to a swath of New Yorkers and the folks who live in our region especially, it is this well-kept secret that is the Adirondacks, right? With 46 peaks above 4,000 feet, excuse me, and a couple of those peaks above 5,000 feet. So it makes them incredibly dense, incredibly rugged, and very natural and undisturbed. And so it becomes, I would say, more of a unique and isolated experience than what you might see in the Whites or in the Greens. You would have to travel to northern Wyoming or northern Maine to find quite as desolate a mountscape as you find right here in New York.
Now, Tait, kind of going back to Lake Placid for a second, and like I said, been up there in the winter, and I'm an Aspen kid, and you, myself, Mike, we've all been very fortunate to be around some top-level athletes or watch what they go through. But it amazed me with Lake Placid, they're there. And I keep bringing up the bobsledding. I love speed. And even though I'm an alpine guy, that has always been one of those things. I love the bobsled. I love the luge. But ski jumping and the weekly series, I mean, this is, we always tell kids that you have a chance to do anything, but you can actually see it up there at Lake Placid.
That's a great point. Part of that is probably a reflection of the intimacy and quality of life here in the region, right? Where a lot of kids, and I'll give you an example of one in a second, a lot of kids who are born here grow up and frankly don't think twice about taking advantage of the opportunity to ski jump or to ski race or to Nordic ski at a high level, right? And that's where you see Andrew Weibrecht or Tommy Biesmeyer get involved in ski racing at an early age and come back to the region and be influential in the region and the next generation of athletes. They're also influential in business, right? And they're just part of the community. And you see that in every sport. In Nordic skiing, this will be our third year, Nordic jumping, this will be our third year of hosting a Nordic World Cup. Nordic World Cup jumping is, as we all know, because we've seen some reference to guys sliding down a long in run and essentially, airing out for 180 or 200 meters down an out run. But none of us really have an inside view of the passion and the culture that Nordic jumping has, especially in Scandinavia and Eastern Europe, countries like Poland and Scandinavian countries, Austria, things like that. It's really intense, it's overwhelming, and it's one of the most popular sports in those regions in the world. And yet we have this pocket of kids here, boys and girls, who are spectacular at it. And one example is a friend of mine whose name is Tait Franz. He's 18 years old. He's a wonderful kid. He's one of many wonderful athletes, but he's also just a normal kid who plays soccer in the fall, ski jumps in the winter, and plays lacrosse in the spring, except that now he's the youngest World Cup Nordic jumping athlete in the world to date. And he'll be here, competing with the world's best in February for our third annual Nordic World Cup event. add to that right after that World Cup event is over, and by the way, that World Cup event is so intense because you see, 100,000 people come to Lake Placid from, Polish communities, for example, in Boston or New York or Chicago, wherever they come from, et cetera, to cheer on their countrymen. But then the following week, we have the Junior Worlds Nordic World Championships, and Tait, France, and others will be contenders to win it all back then. So it's really cool to have such a wonderful cross section of former and current athletes who are among us and who are really just normal folks who happen to be completely committed to their sport, still completely accessible, and in fact most of them serve as either tour guides or sort of experienced guides here in Lake Placid in the summer. So it makes it kind of a fun additional twist on the Lake Placid or the Olympic experience.
That's absolutely amazing that Lake Placid can have that grab. We see it over at Killington with the World Cup now. Lake Placid, Lake Killington are close to major population bases, so that it's easy to get to either one when these huge events come in, which is fantastic. What about downtown Lake Placid? Why don't you give us an overview of the downtown, and I'd love to know some great restaurants and watering holes.
Yeah, so that is again one of the best kept secrets of the region. The downtown village includes high-end shopping. It includes a bunch of restaurants and coffee shops and things of that nature. A number of hotels right on the shores of Mirror Lake, as well as Lake Placid. And any day or night, rain or shine, there's just a wonderful sort of old school Olympic Village experience to be had for any of us, right? So there certainly are a number of sport and adventure and outdoor oriented stores, but there's also higher level fashion and apparel, and some of those wonderful restaurants and bars, watering holes certainly include a famous Lisa G's, which has been locally owned and operated for more than 30 years, and that truly is the first order of locals option across the entire region. But you have other wonderful ones too, such as Players on Main Street, Generations. You have at the Grand Adirondack Hotel, you have the Marcy Bar. You have Dancing Bears. You have Smoke Signals, which is a wonderful high-end barbecue joint. And then as you go further out of town, you have places like the Farmhouse. I'm trying to think of a couple others that jump out. The Stagecoach is a wonderful place. So that covers it.
Perfect. Well, we like food, we like drinks. How can we need to know those spots.
And Tait, one of the things, when we knew you were coming on, I was fortunate. I had a great friend who was at the 1980 Olympics and has returned to Lake Placid multiple times. And I was talking to him, and here's a guy from Colorado. And one of the reasons he returns is the sense of community that Lake Placid provides. And I think you touched on it earlier when you said it does have an Olympic Village vibe. And we so often just see these things on TV, but like I said, I'm a victim. It's kind of been in my blind side, but now it's 100% on my radar that your town is not small, and it offers a lot to the visitor. We've touched on, again, bobsledding, but the golf, the biking, it truly is a resort destination that you don't feel like a tourist in.
Yeah, that's really true. And to your point, considering how idyllic and sort of off the beaten path it is, there really is so much to do that you can't go wrong. And as the marketing guy for Orta, I almost feel like it's my job to remind all of my colleagues that in the winter, when you're not sure of the weather, you're not necessarily sure what the weather is going to be like in the future, you're not necessarily sure what the ski conditions or the temperature is going to be like, we have this unusual abundance of riches where if it's wonderful skiing or wonderful weather, you can literally be on top of Whiteface, which you can see right behind me, and you can ski, steep, relatively blower conditions for those that are so inclined. You can ski easy skiing, groomers, whatever it might be. But if the weather is terrible or you don't want to ski, we have these other experiences that most other places don't have, which includes, again, it includes Nordic skiing, or it includes, whatever sport or activity may be going on in the Olympic Center. You can go watch, bobsled or luge training. You can even watch it from our push track, from our bar at the sliding track, which is pretty neat. The shopping is spectacular, right? The snowshoeing is spectacular. And just walking up and down Main Street on a good day or bad day is spectacular also. So, it's my job as the guy who's new to the post to remind the rest of us that we have this abundance of riches that we don't always share, frankly.
Sure. I'm looking at the backdrop behind you, and I can't stop looking at the slides. Okay. You lived in Vermont. You skied the Jays, the Stows, the Sugarbush. You grew up in Taos, so you've skied the West Basin and Kachina Peak. What exactly is it like skiing the slides?
That's a great question. So, like any truly all natural and adventure-oriented terrain, every day is different. And that's one of the wonderful things, right, about sort of natural skiing, ski touring in a natural environment, things like that, is that every day is completely different. So there are some days where skiing the slides is 12 to 18 inches of blower snow over interesting terrain and through thinned out tree lines and things like that. And then there are other days where it's corn snow and bumped up, and that's exciting. And then there are other days where hang on, because every single turn is going to be different, and that's okay too, right? Just like those other places that you mentioned, both in the east and out west, and so it is true and pure big mountain natural terrain adventure skiing.
Oh, I love it. I've been in there, so I know, but I needed people to realize, I've skied Kachina Peak. I love Taos. But I'll tell you what, when the slides are good, that is some really good skiing.
It's skiing, and it's 3,000 feet of vertical, right? It's
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things I wanted to say is we talk about that vertical, and Whiteface has it. I've took one of the best crashes of my life.
So did I.
Masters race up there. It has everything out west kind of offers, and you touched on it. Any given day, you are going to get some of that snow coming across. I mean, it will dump there.
Yeah, it sure will.
So you have a family. You and your brother grew up in Taos. I know Ted also, and you came back to Lake Placid. What's it like raising your family in a place like Lake Placid?
Another great question. So the first response is it's a wonderful place to raise a family, right? Incredibly intimate. Everyone looks out for each other, right? You can leave your car unlocked and your house unlocked. I don't, by the way, but everyone else does. We're a community that looks out for each other. We have all of these wonderful venues, facilities, and sports, right? So everyone can be involved in that. So all in all, it's great. Having said that, I brought my kids back east. They learned to ski in Deer Valley and became passionate skiers at a young age. Thankfully, they were young enough that when we brought them back east, they didn't truly understand the more generalized snow conditions of the east versus the more generalized snow conditions of the west. And my kids went on to become ski racers and ski very, very well on hard, rugged snow. Then each of them separately migrated back out west to go to race camps or to duck ropes and ski blower, and every one of them questioned our decision to move back east.
Well, I was living in Colorado, and I still question my decision to move back east sometimes. But it's all good.
It's all good.
And I'm a Colorado guy sitting right here in Boston. So it for some reason, there is a pull here. Now, any upcoming summer events that we shouldn't miss? Anything going on that, just hits the bullseye? If my wife's looking for a lot of travel plans for me right now.
Yes. So on the weekend of July 4th, 5th, 6th, we have a big summer Nordic jumping event. And so that's always exciting. Throughout the area, we have Music Weekly right outside in our mids band shell in the middle of town in Lake Placid. And then as we move into the fall, we have our first time ever, as I mentioned, our UCI World Cup mountain bike race, which is 3 days of racing on September 27th through 29th. So all of those represent some of the big events, but they also represent typically what happens every week, right? There's always something going on. And then last but not least, there's also always access to, the water, or in addition to music in town, some other kind of special event that's going on Main Street in Lake Placid or in Saranac Lake or wherever it might be. So it always feels like there's something fun that's going on, to the point where, a lot of the locals always look forward to maybe a little bit later in the fall when there isn't quite so much going on.
Well, don't we all? I like being on the Cape in the fall when there's a little bit less going on. But anything else, Chip?
I'm blown away. I truly forgot, and it's almost kind of a shame on me. We are so close to this place, and
it's our backyard.
It's just that. It's I always go boo-hoo me. I'm not back in Colorado, but there it is. It's just a car ride away, and it sounds like this town has got the smile. The one thing, the stoke that Mike and I know we constantly chase.
That's the word.
It is it does have the stoke. That is very true. I feel as though the local community is celebrating our abundance of riches, as I mentioned, more every single year. It's astounding how many folks are on a bike, right? Or how many more folks are playing golf at any one of 45 holes of golf just right in town, right? And obviously the on water stuff continues to be wonderful, but it seems like in the last 4 or 5 years, since the world kind of did a reset on our appreciation for being outside and adventure, it seems like there's a greater appreciation for what we have out our door every single year.
Well, New York's my home state. I grew up there in the western part of the state. Lake Placid is still very, very special to me, along with the whole Adirondack region. And we all need to get up there and explore again.
No, and thank you for sharing that. It's I think for a lot of listeners, they've only heard Whiteface and how cold it is in the winter. And I know in my business, a lot of people are like, but it's, Whiteface, J Peak, it's no different.
Not at all.
And a few less people, a little better experience. You never know what you're going to get, it sounds like.
And you can ski on runs that world champions have skied on, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
So, Tait, we want to thank you for joining us. I totally appreciate it. I'm looking forward to get up there and see you, Lauren, and Mr. Vance. You guys are all pretty special up there.
Well, Chip and Mike, thank you guys so much for having me. As you know, our house is your house, so I can't wait to see you and host you and all your guests as soon as you come up.
Sounds fantastic. And that was Tait Wardlaw from Lake Placid, New York. Perfect. You know, Chip, there's always a rivalry between Boston and New York. It just seems to be the real rivalry. But in this case, when it comes to skiing, there is no rivalry.
No, I think it's pretty obvious. And wow, a little eye-opening. It's I knew the Olympics were there. I knew it was a great town, but even a guy like me, I forgot how much goes on in that town. And, you know, you and I have both been in this industry a long time, and we know what it's like, again, to be around those athletes. But to throw the family in the car and go watch some of the best athletes in the world train, what an experience.
It's a huge experience. And to be able to have what I'll call a Western mountain town in New York.
Yes.
Because it really is that epicenter, Lake Placid, you know, proper. You know, it's got great kayaking, great stand-up paddling. It's got great mountain biking, great, incredible hiking. I mean, the 4,000 footers there.
No, and when I lived out in Colorado, if you said New York, I only thought one thing. And even if you said Lake Placid, I only thought one thing. And my eyes are open now. It's to have a vacation area that with a lake, you know, and that's one of the big key problems of so many of our resort towns is we're landlocked. To have such access to water, to boat, to sail, paddleboard, but then to go play golf or, you know, go have a great meal and to have that Western feel just a few hours from the city.
It is absolutely amazing. You know what? You asked me earlier, did I have any plans this summer? I am going to go home and tell my wife we're going to go up to Lake Placid for a couple nights, tool around. I mean, if you haven't been there, folks, it is an amazing spot. Go in the summer, go in the winter. The first time I skied the upper part of the downhill run, I was stunned.
It's frightening, and they added to that.
I know.
It's already big enough. And I know when I raced it that one time in the Masters, it was not from the top. And in the fact that they made it bigger, and I challenge anyone, go up there. You want to see how fast you can go and what edges are for? It is a fun time.
It sure is. Well, folks, that is this. Oops. Well, folks, that is it for this portion of the Basecamp Podcast. We want to thank you for joining us from Chip and myself. We'll catch you in 2 weeks on our bi-weekly podcast during the summer.
Take care and keep the smile.
New England Ski Journal's Basecamp is a Seamans Media podcast. Seamans Media. Inspiring, informative, insightful.